said to us on this, which is that for those people, the groups you identified, that they can be provided with a service that will meet their needs and at the same time not replace the people that go on training programs for a day.
Okay. So, and then I'm just going to move to another topic just very quickly. Mr. Mayor, I think you recognize that there are 16 out of the coach shelter facilities that are run by various faith organizations that are supported by clergies and different organizations. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that for 30 years that they've been organizing these programs as ancillary and supplementary programs to our shelter system? For the very first time, they came to City Hall as a group to present to us a recommendation. And their requests, Mr. Mayor, are you aware that this group of individuals, and there are 40 organizations that they represent, from synagogues to temples to mosques, and what they asked us to do was specifically acknowledge that the shelter system was in crisis. They asked that there be no further budget cuts to the shelter system. They asked that the homelessness prevention programs would not be removed or diminished in any ways. And Mr. Mayor, are you aware that that particular request from these organizations that support the services that we provide, that they're telling us our shelters are full, the system is in crisis, and they asked us not to do any more damage to the most vulnerable?
Through you, Madam Speaker, yes, I'm aware they were here a couple of days ago, and I will say this again, that in deference to, and I hope that those are people that are among those consulted by the General Manager when he writes the report that I have joined Councillor DiCiano in requesting on an urgent basis, that in deference to their point of view, in deference to the equity report that's mentioned, in deference to anybody else, including people in this chamber that have a view on this, that I hope those people will come forward and talk about the evidence that backs their conclusions in this regard. And I have said, and I'll say it again, I will read that report. I don't intend to just say, oh, well, we've just fulfilled our obligation to write up a report now and so much for that. I will read it with great care as I try to read all the reports, and I will take it seriously as I think we're obligated to do when we're talking about these client groups, and we will see where it goes from there. But I take some heart in the fact that we will have a relatively fresh set of eyes in our new General Manager, who is very committed, I think, to using a lot of data as much as we possibly have to make these decisions, to consult some of the people that you've talked about and others, and come back with what I hope will be a very excellent report. I have no idea what it'll say, but just an excellent report, because I think that's the kind of work he does. And I have confidence in him. Thank you.
Councillor Karygiannis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, through you to the Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we're not firing off anybody. We're going to keep the people that we have, and we're going to realign them. This is what I'm hearing tonight.
Well, no, but that's Councillor Karygiannis, through you, Madam Speaker, that's what the report says. The report, long before I got involved in this and long before this debate took place, the report from the beginning said that the jobs that are being talked about here in the shelter system were not going to be lost, in the sense no one was being sent out the door with a pink slip.
That is what you're supporting, if I'm correct. Yes?
I'm supporting a plan that says that, first of all, nobody's losing a job, and secondly, that on the question of whether they should be redeployed or not, or some of them should and not others, or whatever, I'm asking that we have a report from our new General Manager that will help us to see whether the conclusion that I will support for today, which is the Budget Committee's recommendation, should be altered or not.
At the end of the day, you're not supporting more positions. You're supporting less positions for the vulnerable, the most vulnerable, the homeless out there.
Well, I'm saying for the moment I support the recommendation that suggests the redeployment of some of these people, and that is on the basis, as described in the report, that they can get the same care. And so I am supporting that, and I'm supporting the recommendation of the Budget Committee, but I'm also willing to listen to the expert analysis of our new General Manager and see what he has to add to this discussion that's been very complete today, I think.
Madam Speaker, through you to the Mayor, let's just put the report aside for 30 seconds. Just park it over here. These are homeless people. These are real people on the street. Last year we had somebody that died outside because he was in the cold. And what we're saying is we're going to cut back people in order to not service them. And I say to you, Mr. Mayor, should anything happen out there, until this report comes out and all that stuff, who will take the blame? We would be to blame. And then when we're to blame, how can we justify going home tonight and sleeping when we know that we will not support 10 positions, never mind cutting the never mind, 10 positions that are needed for the most vulnerable, the people that are at the bottom of the barrel of our society. That's what you're supporting, and that's what you're asking us to do.
I would say to you, through you, Madam Speaker, Councillor Karygiannis, that I am supporting a budget that also adds substantial numbers of new shelter beds. I visited some of them. And I am supporting a budget that says right in it that we can provide the same service to the people you're talking about with these fewer people, and they're spread across the system, so it's not as if they're concentrated. There are a couple more concentrated in Seton House, but again, I have confidence in our professional public servants, and I can't believe they would even put in front of us for consideration, no matter what direction they'd be given by us, any recommendation that they thought could lead to that consequence that you talked about. I think that by adding more shelter beds, which we're doing, because I've been to see them with my own eyes, that is an investment that we are making that is involving an additional investment that is more likely to be able to save lives than anything you could suggest that is going to put people in jeopardy. And I wouldn't support something that I thought or that any of our advisors had told us would put people in jeopardy. They haven't said that.
Through the Speaker to you, sir, this will probably, 10 positions will be $500,000, roughly about, I would say to you, 50 cents per home. I'll gladly pay the extra 50 cents on my home, and I'm sure that everyone here will say, yep, I'll pay it, including yourself, if we know that this will not cause one death. We had a death last year, and everybody went wild in here. So I would say to, through the Speaker to you, sir, please reconsider. Reconsider this position for those 10 positions that will save lives. Period, full stop. It will save lives. If one life lost, it could be one life too many.
Councillor,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, I think we're, okay.
I have said, Madam Speaker, that I will read carefully, as I think we all should, the report that if that motion passes, which will come on April the 30th to us, and that it will give us a guide as to whether there is a better way to do this, recognizing that we do have to find some opportunities to do things better and differently inside this government on many, many different fronts. And so I am deeply committed to making sure we do a better job of caring for the most vulnerable people. This recommendation has come forward for the moment, and I believe what it says, which is that the service levels will not be affected in any material way. And I will, however, I'm willing to listen to what our new general manager has to say about this, and that's why I've asked the report. And I think that's a very reasonable, open-minded position to take.
Okay, thank you. Oh, come on now. Councillor, please.
Madam Speaker, I'll simply say this. One of the things that I've learned about this job, and this is not a complaint, it's an observation, and it's true for all of you as well, but it's true for me on a kind of a slightly broader scale because of my accountability that I have as the only person elected across the city. My reputation is staked on every decision that I make inside this chamber, and frankly, my reputation is staked on every decision we all make, even ones I disagree with, because I'm almost the only one that's held to account for all of these kinds of things, whether I should or shouldn't be. And so if I believe this was the wrong thing to do, the combination of voting for this recommendation and having the report written by our new general manager, then I wouldn't support it. But I believe this is a defensible course of action. I believe it will produce something that will be of benefit to us all in this report that's going to be forthcoming, and I've told you how carefully I will read that report, as I hope we all will, when it comes in April, assuming the motion is passed.
Councillor, I keep seeing names come off and on the screen. Councillor DiCiano, did you have your name up there? You did. You took it off. Councillor Ford.
Sorry, thank you.
It's a little late to play games.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll try and be brief with my questions to the mayor. Sorry, councillors. Mr. Mayor, you did say in your responses to other councillors that a few $1 million is a lot of money. Do you believe $6 million going into direct investments to TCHC, transit, and childcare is a substantial investment?
I think $6 million is a substantial investment in anything.
Right. Earlier this evening, I did put a motion on that we, for 1 year, put the cost of living adjustment, reinvest it into these services. Do you agree with that method, or?
I'll answer the question this way, and again, I'm trying to be completely honest about these things, because I think the time has come in politics for that sort of honesty, and I want to divide it into two. Number one, with respect to the proposal you made with regard to management, I don't think it's the right way to go about this. I understand why people might think in terms of the sort of political optics of saying, well, we told those managers they couldn't have their cost of living increase, that would be popular in some quarters. But these are the very same managers that we are expecting to do the job of reforming the different aspects of government, modernizing the government, and so forth. And so to take the kind of the sledgehammer approach and just say they're all getting frozen, when this is something that has been in their arrangements, and we've gone through these freezes before, only to see the same result, by the way, every time you have one of these freezes, which is then you have to do some catching up 5 years from now, because make no mistake, and I say this respectfully to you, Councillor, through the Speaker, you'll be back next year saying, well, we should freeze it a second year, because of course it's election year. And I'm not saying that in any way critical of you, I'm just saying that's what, I'd bet all my money that that's what's going to happen. And I want to move on to something you did not ask about, which is the pay raise, because I want to say it right here. I said it to the media already, I'll say it again, which is that I think when we decide upon a system, for better or for worse, that determines how the salaries of councillors and the mayor here are to be calculated, then every time you start making an exception to that, you just make a farce out of a system that I assume, and by the way, I didn't put that system in place. I think it was actually done under the previous mayor, and people voted on it around here, I assume in a majority number, because it wouldn't be there otherwise. And so I also said, though, that I even went as far as to say that the slip that I got in the envelope saying I could donate it back to the city, I won't do that. And I think you all know, because some of you mocked me for it, that I can afford to donate it back. I give as much in some years to charity as my entire salary. But that would be a disservice, in my view, to the future people that hold my office, who might not be in the fortunate position that I'm in, to just say, fine, then we'll donate it back, or we'll give it all away, or we'll take no salary, or we'll spend no money in our office. There are a few people here who are blessed to have the ability to pay for their own office, or pay for their own salary, or give their salary away. I want to attract the best people to this city council long after I'm gone from here, and that isn't determined by how much money you have. And so I'm taking the honest approach both on the salary, and therefore I'll vote against that motion of yours, and on the managers, and I will also vote against the motion that was brought on newsletters. I don't think anybody here needs any more money to publish newsletters.
Right. And I respect your opinion, Mr. Mayor. And I know you're taking these numbers from me, so I know you haven't probably seen a report saying that. But to my math, there's a 33% difference between CPI, which calculates inflation, and the current level of our cost of living adjustment. So are these raises technically cost of living? Or are they raises?
The first, I'll say, Madam Speaker, the first I'd heard of those numbers was when you recited them earlier on today, and you've repeated them now. I'll certainly be asking some questions about that tomorrow morning. You can count on that, because cost of living to me means cost of living. I mean, it'd be like if I came in here and said, well, inflation when it comes to property taxes means, you know, inflation plus 2%. It doesn't mean that. It means the rate of inflation, notwithstanding Councillor Mahevich's motion that passed earlier today to look at other ways to calculate that. But so I'll be looking at those numbers, but inflation, cost of living to me means cost of living, which generally means inflation most of the time.
Right. And my last question, a member of council responded to this earlier, but I'll put it to you. Do you believe that progression pay plus performance pay plus a cost of living adjustment that far exceeds what it is by my numbers I have seen is unmotivating? Is it unmotivating just to put that back to inflation? And you come from the private sector. Would they do that in the private sector?
Yeah, I'll just say this to you, Councillor Ford. So in a way, I'm going to agree with you, through you, Madam Speaker, and some of my team will probably be aghast. But I believe if I had my druthers, I would implement real performance pay in vast parts of this organization, just as I would in any organization, because it isn't just a matter of the money. People, if they think they're recognized for doing better on real metrics, not just whether we all feel better about whether they did a good job or they were just a good teammate. That's important, being a good teammate. So I'd bring performance pay in here, and I think you'd find that we would have this government running more efficiently in no time. And in fact, it would give people the opportunity to make even more than they might otherwise make. But I realize that I don't even bother to go down that road by and large, because I think it's like you know, pushing a rope. I mean, it's not something that's likely to happen anytime soon. But I think that these systems that just have people lockstep getting an increase because they're just here, I think is not the best way to incent people to do their best. It isn't all about money, but certainly people are incented by money. That's why in many, many other organizations